Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to dive into topics related to living the intentional life. And before we dive into this week's spread, let me ask you a question. When you think of being the king of the world, when you think of being the monarch of your material realm, monarch, male, female, non-binary, non-gendered, monarch of your material plane, do you see yourself as that monarch now? Or do you see that as a destination, or perhaps something you will become sometime in the future when all the other stuff gets settled, when you have the relationship you are hoping for, when you've got the job you hope that you will get, when you have moved into the home you want to create, when you've had this or that experience? After that, do you think you will eventually become the monarch of your realm? Or again, do you see yourself as the monarch now? This week's Tarot and Oracle spread is asking us to remember that living the intentional life, we want to embody our inner monarch of the world, our inner king of the world, as often as we possibly can, because that is living the intentional life. So friends, if you saw last week's video, you've already seen the spread that I'm about to show you. You've not seen the cards in the spread, but you've seen the shape. So let me show you the spread, and then I'll try to give you a quick overview of what you just saw. Take a look. I think this is a beautiful spread. Do you agree? And the art on the cards is just stunning. And I believe that they work together very, very well. This is the second week that I've used these cards together. And I'm amazed, flabbergasted. I'm impressed with how well they speak to each other, how well they interact with each other, how well they balance each other. Now, if you have seen my previous videos, this might look like it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult to see what's going on than in the previous videos. But if you saw last week's video, you've already seen an explanation of what you just saw, the layout. Now, this spread is inspired by the Ace of Swords from the Tarot of the Holy Light. And if you want to see that card, the deeper explanation I gave about this spread, go check out my previous video. I'll try to put a card up here. So, just in a brief overview, what do we have? We've got a central line of tarot cards from the Tarot of the Holy Light, and that forms the sword, piercing through the clouds and the crown. On the left, there are three cards which form the conscious aspect of this spread. And on the right, there are three cards which form the unconscious aspect, the sun and the moon. And then on either side of the central set of three cards, there are two oracle cards giving advice, one in the sunlight, in the conscious realm, and one in the unconscious, or the moon realm. So that's what we just saw. And we will move from the center to the left, the conscious, then to the right, to the unconscious, and then dive into the advice. Does that make sense? So if you're interested in these decks and you want to know who the creators are, there will be a short video at the end of this video which gives you all of that information. I do that for every video I do from this series. So, just in case you're new, Stay tuned to the end and you'll get all of that information. But for now, let's dive into that central line of 3 cards from the Tarot of the Holy Light. Here they are. Interesting, right? If you were here last week, you saw that just like this week, in this line of cards, the central card was upright and the top and the bottom cards were reversed. Last week and this week. Very interesting, right? This deck wants to speak in that way to us, at least so far. At least that's the way it looks like. Now, the Tarot of the Holy Light is intended to be read with reversals. So I shuffle in reversals every time I shuffle the deck. And so what did we get? At the top, we got the 9 of Wands reversed. In the center, the King of Discs upright. And below, we had the Magus in reverse. We're going to start with the central card of this 3-card spread because I think, well, I think for one, it's an upright card, so let's start with the easy one, right? But also, it seems like the central message of this entire spread to me. Hope it does to you too. So the central card of this spread was the King of Discs, the King of Discs upright. And I don't know, can you see this? I hope you can. That's the King of Discs from today's spread. And you'll notice several things. The king has a shield with a 6-pointed star on it, and the king's foot is on another shield with a 7-pointed star and 7 stars around it. And so we get this idea of the 7 classical planets, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Those were the classical visible lights in the sky. So that's what those recall to us. And then above the head there is the sign, the symbol for Earth, and also around the king's head in that symbol there's some Latin here which I was not able to really translate for us. Separate means separate. Adite means to add together, but separate and something, add. I don't have the missing word, so it's hard to translate. But around that, we also have a Taurus and what looks to me to be a Venus. No, actually, it looks to me like Scorpio, actually. It looks like Scorpio. I would have expected Venus to be here. 2 of the Earth signs, right? Anyway, so that's what we've got. And the King of Discs is Taurus in this deck. Taurus. What is Taurus? Taurus is the bull who enjoys the physical realm, who enjoys being who they are right here on the earth. So Taurus, the King of Discs, is educated in the ways of the world. Now, the King of Discs also is the steady shepherd of his, her, their people. Now remember, all of the court cards are gendered in name, but not gendered in meaning. You, whether you are male, female, trans, non-binary, whatever you identify as, you are the King of Discs at times in your life. And there are times when we want to shepherd the people around us. Now, this earthly king is also able to traverse the 3 classical realms, the 3 classical spheres, the underworld, the earth, and the heavenly realm. So the King of Discs can traverse all of those domains, and that's indicated by the foot on this disc below and the disc in the hand, the celestial disc and the underworldly disc. He's the master, he, she, it, they are the master of their earthly realm, the master of work and play. Now they work hard and they play hard. And they enjoy it. There's a sensual enjoyment of everything that they do. The working, they enjoy the working of it, the feel of working it. There's a physicality to the work rather than a mental or not so much maybe a passion creative thing, but the physical enjoyment of working things. And also the physical enjoyment of food, of other sensual pleasures. Yeah? Music perhaps, beauty. This is a person of stable enterprises. Stable. There's a stability to the earth signs, right? Stable enterprises based on strong values rather than profit or power. Yeah? This king is here for us as the stable one who enjoys stable expansion for the sake of expansion, for the sake of enjoying the work, rather than being greedily grabbing for cash or grabbing for influence and power among their neighbors, their fellow magnates, fellow majesties, fellow monarchs. That's the word I was looking for, monarchs. And he reminds us to resist the urge resist the potential to become flaccid from overindulgence in abundance. Because this king reminds us of balance. Balance of work and play. If we get too engrossed in the play, in the sensual enjoyment of things, we will become weak and we won't be able to do the work part. We won't be able to enjoy the work part of our lives. And living an intentional life, what do you think? Is living an intentional life a series of parties in the sense of parties? Yeah, going out, socializing, drinking, doing whatever mind-body altering substance you enjoy, if there is one. Going to concerts and sitting around and enjoying the sensual pleasures. Is that the entirety of what an intentional life is? It is not, right? It isn't. We came here to work. We came here to enjoy the things that we create. We came here to enjoy doing in the world. That's why we have bodies. That's why we have these magnificent hands and these magnificent minds and these magnificent, all of the parts of our body that we have access to using. Now, not all of us have access to using hands, for example, and we can still do work in the world. Not all of us have access to legs that function as well as others, and we can still do work in the world, and we can still enjoy doing the work in the world. And we want to balance, not in the sense of it's this or that, but balance in the sense of bringing together, and we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. We want to enjoy the full spectrum of our experience in these bodies, and that is work and play together and joining and intermeshing them. It's also traversing again the heavenly realm and the underworld as we live here on the earth in these physical bodies. That's who the King of Discs is, and it's a very powerful person. This person might not be so quick, maybe not as quick as the King of Swords. It might not be as passionate as the King of Wands and as much of a fiery leader and powerful leader as the King of Wands. It may not be as emotionally connected as the King of Cups, but this king is powerful. The fully manifested experiencer of this world that we came here to experience. That's who I see this King of Discs as being. Why do we want to traverse the underworld and the heavens? Because we have access to so much information, so much wisdom from both the heavenly sphere and the underworld sphere, which a lot of us, frankly, are afraid of. But remember, Persephone is down there, enjoying her relationship with Hades, eating her pomegranates. Yeah? The underworld that we're speaking of here is not the underworld of fire and demons only. This is the underworld of the unconscious, the below world where things are dark, things move slowly, but there are still pleasures there. For example, pomegranates, which are very sensual, right? Persephone was tempted by pomegranates. So that's the kind of underworld that we want to have access to and be able to traverse, to dip down into, not live there all of the time, not yet at least, but dip down into and then come back up to the earth, and then rise up to the heavens to see what's up there and then come back to the earth and use our experiences to create and flow with the powerful flow of intention. Now remember, there's that balance there, right? Which brings us right to the Magus, I believe. The Magus reversed. The Magus reversed. This is the air suit, right? Or this is signified by air. Air suit? No. Air is the significator for the Magus. And let me see if I can bring it closer to you. Can you see that? The Magus, it's a beautiful card. Yeah? A little bit similar to maybe the Thoth Magus. Perhaps a little more so than the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Smith-Waite Magus deck. And remember, this is not a Smith-Waite-based deck. This is a Continental Tarot. This is not associated with the Golden Dawn. It's not associated with the Harris Crowley deck either. This is based on research of the tarot before the Golden Dawn. So, this Magus, while I see echoes of the Thoth here, is a little bit different. Upright, if we look at him, he's got two of the Cardusiuses here in their hands. We got the sun, we got the moon, we got the symbol of air indicated behind and above, crown, wings, able to fly, to soar, wings below, wings on the back and wings below. There's potential to fly, to have power here. And when this card is upright or reversed, Christine Payne-Towler wants us to remember this. Whether the card is upright or reversed, true success depends on keeping one's balance, harmonizing all opposites, instead of polarizing all opposites. For example, the heavens and the underworld. Now we want to keep the balance, male, female, not masculine, feminine, male, female. We have those qualities within us, and we want to balance those. Active, passive, watery, fiery. We want to balance those rather than create polarity, because the polarity doesn't exist. It's a spectrum. It's all connected, and they're closer to one side and closer to the other, and there are more or less extremes, but we don't want to split it into a fictional binary polarization of hot-cold. Now, we do that as humans. Our brains like to do that. We split things into the binary, but this reminds us not to do that. It also reminds us that we want to have an open mind. They have that airiness, that air suit of the mind. We want to have an open mind that is inclusive, an and approach to the world, rather than this versus that, this versus that. Hot and cold, high and low, active and passive, giving and receiving, simultaneously. As I give, I receive. Not I give now and then later some other time I'll receive sometimes and there'll be some kind of balance, but giving and receiving at the same time. The giving is a reception. The receiving is a kind of giving. To be able to wrap our minds, open our minds to that, is what this card is reminding us to do. It's also reminding us to achieve balance within, maybe our solar plexus mind, our heart mind, and our brain mind, all together as a unified, experiencing, thinking, responding mechanism. Our manifested mind, we split them up into different sections. Right? There's this brainy part, there's this heart mind part, there's this gut mind part, but we want to bring them together as one. So they interact and we experience them as a unified mind. Because a true view of reality can be gained as long as we don't distract ourselves with fear, criticism, self-consciousness, split desires, yes-butting ourselves, or cynicism. Now, those fears, those self-criticisms, they split our minds up, and we are unable to fully manifest our king of discsness. So inner awareness is also important. Inner awareness and our natural ability to make self-adjustments. When things start going too far askew, too far towards perhaps fire, we want to be able to bring ourselves a little bit closer to water to balance out. When we start flying off into the realms of air, we want to also bring ourselves down to the realm of earth and incorporate all aspects. And in doing so, we can maintain our king of discsness more than we otherwise would. Which brings us to the 9 of Wands reversed. Let me show it to you upright. Now, it's interesting. If you saw my deep dive into the Tarot of the Holy Light, you will perhaps remember that this card came up for me the day that as a daily draw card, the day that I left Iceland. That day, before that day, there had been a lot of earthquakes, which to those in the know in Iceland were indications that the volcano there was preparing to blow. And interestingly, 2 hours after my flight took off, that volcano blew. See the volcano blowing here? So that was an interesting synchronicity. When this card comes up in reverse, Christine Payne-Towler mentions this at least once or maybe twice. We can become punch drunk. That's the possibility of being punch drunk and unable to really fully process and respond to what we're experiencing. Losing perspective. Because we've taken so many blows. Or exhaustion. And unable to receive help or even plan for the future because we've been beat up pretty good. Yeah? So this is the card to remind us that if we are here, stop. Leave the heroics to somebody else. It's not time for us to be the king of, where are we? The king of discs at that time. Leave it. It's time to leave off so that we can recover and find our balance. It's time to find our safe spaces, even more so than when the card is upright. When it's upright, it's having a safe space, perhaps even an armistice between natural enemies who are taking shelter together. When it's reversed, it's find your safe space. And sometimes we get beat up, right? To one extent or another. And when we start getting beat up, like I started feeling beat up yesterday, do you feel like you are thinking rationally or clearly? Do you think you're at the top of your mental game? That you're able to plan very well? Or when people come to help you, when you felt really beat up by life. Have you ever felt unable to say yes to that help? You just want to crawl into your bed or into your safe space, whatever that is, and recover enough so that you can open up to receiving that help. Have you ever experienced that? And now we're not talking about depression here. We're talking about being beat up enough that you just, I just can't do it anymore. I need a break. I need even a break from help. I just need to stop. When those moments arrive, we want to take the time to recover ourselves, to recover our king of discs, our balance, so that we can again reach for the heights and into the depths, and lead those around us as we work with them. And enjoy the things that we have, the things that are around us. Enjoy living in these bodies, in this physical, earthly realm. That's living the intentional life. And also recognizing when this happens, and this is going to happen. The Nine of Wands reverse is going to happen to us from time to time. And that's a good thing. It's not something to say, damn, that Nine of Wands reverse situation, whatever it is back again. I really messed up. Now, remember, we don't want to do that beating ourselves up, right? When it happens, we take the time, we course correct. Within, we regain our inner balance so that we can regain our outer balance as well. And rediscover our true selves, which is the King of Discs. Does that make sense? This is an important reading, I think, for living an intentional life. And we've got two sets of advice on either side of these cards. And we'll go right into the sun side, into the conscious area, right now. In the conscious realm, we have Temperance, starting from the bottom, Temperance, the Nine of Cups, and the Page of Wands. And I lay these cards out from bottom to top, just so you know. And so this time, it really seems to me that both sets of these cards are asking to be read from bottom to top. Like the sword piercing up through the clouds in the Ace of Swords, yeah? From bottom to top. That's the direction we're going to go. So let's start with Temperance, because that really echoes the main message of the central cards from the Tarot of the Holy Light. That card was Temperance. And this is a beautiful card. I love this Temperance card. It has even more for me than Pixie's art in the Smith-Waite deck. Not Pixie's, I don't like calling her Pixie anymore, I'm sorry. Pamela Coleman Smith's art in the Smith-Waite deck. Why? Because if you saw this carefully, there are more elements of not only balance, but intermingling. And this reminds me, again, just a little bit of the image on the Thoth art card, which is a marriage, a combining of elements of, in that one it's red and white, here it's red and blue. Now we've got perhaps an androgynous figure who is perhaps half male, half female. We've got the red side, we've got the blue side, but combined into one. We've got the two serpents moving up together, reminding us of the Caduceus, Hermes Caduceus. We've got the cups pouring, just like in a Smith-Waite deck. We've got the cups pouring from one to the other. That's very similar. But there's so much in this card. There's so much depth and texture in this card. I just love this one. I love there's a flower on one side and no flower on the other. Now, the perhaps more female side, the more male side combining to be a more hermaphroditic being, which is total temperance. Temperance, balance, moderation, and patience are three ways of reading this card, which echoes the King of Discs, right? The moderation, balance of work and play. Not balance of separate items, work over here and play over here, but the spectrum of work and play. The temperance card is also perhaps purpose and forbearance, being able to continue on our path, not so much walking path, but on our current, on our flow of intention. It's also the card for attuning and harmonizing elements. Now, harmonizing water and fire, harmonizing earth and air, harmonizing male and female within ourselves, harmonizing work and play. It's also the card of alchemy. And I think that's what I really want to dive into for this card, for this spread. Because like the King of Discs, like the Megas, we're not just balancing. For me, just balancing is the Justice card. The Temperance card is where we bring things together and create a new third thing. A combined thing, a hermaphroditic thing, a unified thing. And as the King of Discs is able to bring heaven and earth and merge them together, heaven and the underworld, and merge them together into the experience of the earthly realm, that's an alchemical thing. That final distillation into the gold of our experience, that's an alchemical thing. And that's what this card is here to remind us of. And that's where we want to start. We want to start by balancing, but also mixing, also creating with our experiences. And then right above that, we have a Cups card. Now, we have two cards above that. One water, one fire. Again, doing an alchemy, as in the Temperance card. And the first element of alchemy is the Nine of Cups card. We saw this beautiful cat licking their paw and happy and contented, satisfied, experiencing ecstatic comfort. Also the card of material success and gratitude for what we have. Now it's not just success of, yeah, I'm rich and now I'm going to hoard and become a Four of Discs kind of person, but material success and the gratitude that it evokes, because this is an emotional card. It's not necessarily the monetary card. This is the emotional experience from success. It's that satisfaction, that enjoyment, that gratitude for all that we have. It can also be the wish granted card for some people, the wish card for many people. But for me, it's more gratitude and contentment, those emotional things. Like the kitty licking themselves after drinking a whole lot of cream, and there's even more cream left over there for them for when they're ready for it. It's that level of, I'm satisfied and there's still more there for me when I'm ready to move into it. That's living an intentional life, is it not? That's as open as we want to feel, to have full access to the power of intention. That kind of satisfaction. But that's not all that there is. There's also the Page of Wands. Now the Page of Wands, you see this figure, this female-looking figure, playing their violin, dancing in the fields, having so much fun. There's so much color, and there's water behind this Page of Wands. I don't know if you noticed that. This Page of Wands, even though this is a very fiery card, has a very powerful, not river, but stream of water running behind them. Feather in their cap, all of these specks of fire and energy around them. They're playing their violin and creating music and energy and passion. The Page of Wands is inspiration and ideas. Also discovery of our potential, limitless potential. Because this is the beginning of the court cards, yeah? The king already knows their power and knows the long-range vision. The queen is able to mentor others and to lead others and is full in themselves with their power. The knight is out there charging to explore. The page is inspired by all of this new possibility, this limitless potential. It's amazing and wonderful and something to be enjoyed. The Page of Wands is a free spirit, yeah? Dancing out in the fields, motivated, energetic. And then we come back to this card, this balance card, right? A balance between the fire and water, but not only balance, but combining to create new. So we can combine our inspiration and our satisfaction together to create an entirely new emotional libido-esque experience, a fiery, watery experience. We can merge our discovery of our potential and our contentment with what is together to have a brand new, powerful, more stable yet flowing experience. You know, water flows, fire flows, and they can flow together when we bring them together in the alchemical cup and create something new, create our discovery of our potential and our contentment with what is together. And what would that be? What would that be like? How open and expansive would that feel? I think in a sense that might be what the King of Discs experiences in that earthly manifestation. So consciously, we can move in that direction. And when we notice that we're knocked off course by events in our lives, when we feel the Nine of Wands reverse, or maybe not even that extreme of a situation, we don't have to be completely punch drunk to recognize that we want to take some time to bring ourselves back into alignment, into balance, into our ability to achieve gut, heart, and mind unity from the Magus card reversed. And then we can open ourselves up again and start doing that. Experience ourselves as the King of Discs and do that alchemy. Be that alchemy. Can you understand or feel what that means to be alchemy? I can feel a taste of that. I don't think I've fully experienced it yet, but I can catch a whiff of it on the air. And I'm hopefully going to move in that direction. And I hope that we can all move in that direction. And perhaps our unconscious minds can help guide us in that direction. So let's move in the direction of the moon side of the spread, the unconscious side. Let's take a look. This is so much fun. Are you having as much fun as I am? I think this is so much fun. We're now here in the moon side of the spread. And again, starting from bottom to top, we've got the Eight of Pentacles, the Empress, and the Magician. And we're going to start with the Eight of Pentacles. And that made sense to me because the central card of this spread is the Discs card, the Earth card. In a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck, in the Golden Dawn, well, no. The Harris Crowley is also Golden Dawn. In the Coleman, the Smith-Waite decks, we call them pentacles. Yeah, instead of discs. We call them pentacles. And so the Eight of Pentacles, we'll start here. And we see a figure, the idea is similar to Pamela Coleman Smith's art, where we've got a person sitting on a bench, pounding on one pentacle and 7 other completed pentacles behind them. And it's the apprenticeship aspiration card. Yeah. Here we have the discs on the wall and one more being worked on a different kind of workbench, but a workbench. This figure looks like they're perhaps painting rather than working with a chisel and a mallet with wood, perhaps, or maybe metal. This person looks more like they're painting something at night, interestingly, at night with their lantern glowing. Very dark sky outside. But remember, this is the nighttime side. This is the moon side of the spread. So this happening at night and in the dark times echoes the idea of being there in the moon side of the spread, which is why I chose this deck for the moon side. Eight of Pentacles, again, apprenticeship, aspiration, repetitive tasks. But repetitive tasks not in the sense of monotony, but repetitive tasks in the sense of we repeat doing things in order to master our craft, first developing our skills. Yeah, they say that it takes 10,000 hours of doing something to really master it. 10,000 hours of playing the violin like the Page of Wands to really become the king of playing the violin. 10,000 hours of meditation to really become a master meditator. Now, it's repetitive actions which give us mastery. And that's what this card reminds us of. Skill development. Also our natural gifts. We have some natural gifts. And this also reminds us of those natural things which sometimes arise from within, from the unconscious. I think I have this skill somewhere down there. We think of it as down. I don't think it really is down, but somewhere down in there, I've got this skill that is revealing itself. Have you ever noticed that? You realize that I've got a talent for painting. I want to continue painting to develop my skill, but that talent is innate for some of us. Or singing, or cooking, or cleaning a house. Some of us have an innate talent for cleaning, and some of us really do not. I know people who do not have an innate talent for cleaning. They clean, but they don't really get it. Have you ever seen anybody like that? Have you ever been in someone's house like that, where you know that they clean, but they just don't have the talent for really cleaning very well? I would say I have a little bit of a talent for cleaning, but not all that much. My weak point is organization. That's another story. So, talents. We all have our own talents that can be revealed. And we want to repeat them. And it's repeating them that makes some of that skill become unconscious ability. Like driving. You don't have to think about, okay, so now I put my foot on the pedal and I press the pedal a little bit as I put my hand on the key, and I turn the key a little bit, and I wait for the sound that tells me the engine is started, and then I can take my hand off the key, and you don't have to think about all of that when we drive. That's after repetition, it's automatic. So this being part of the unconscious side makes absolute sense, doesn't it? The King of Discs has those abilities that have become second nature. And those talents, those abilities, that mastery that is part of our now unconscious mind allows us to become the Empress. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the Empress. This is the Empress. Become the Empress. Now, this is a very streamlined version of the Empress to me. It's okay. I actually prefer Pamela Coleman Smith's Empress a little bit more, just a little bit more, but I like this enough. I like it a lot, and it makes sense for being in, again, the moon side of the spread. What do we see here? We see moons in all of their phases behind her, which is wonderful, because one of the things of the Empress is cycles. Not the cycles of the wheel, but the creative cycles of, for example, a woman's cycle. Now, which is also part of the wheel, but the creativity of that cycle. So the Empress is, of course, it's fertility and maternity, but it doesn't have to actually be only for the cis women of the group. Now, the rest of us all have our own kind of fertility, our own kind of maternity, parental instincts, developed or undeveloped. This is also the card of beauty and nature. Nature out there in the world, but also inner nature, right? Our internal nature is fed by those skills of the Eight of Pentacles when they become our second nature. We become creative. Our nature becomes creative, becomes fertile, becomes beautiful, and we create beauty in the world from this as we have mastered our talents. This is also the card of abundance. We create our abundance as we move with the powerful flow of intention. That Eight of Pentacles ability that now resides as part of our unconscious allows for our abundance and our creativity out in the world, because we don't have to focus so much on each little step. It's become second nature, creative nature. And as we've become naturally creative, see how I got there? As we become naturally creative in the Empress, we move into the Magician, manifesting into the world. And some people might think, what do you mean? We've gone backwards in the trumps. But think about this. The Empress is fertile. And then the actual manifestation comes sometimes with the Magus, with the Magician. There's this internal fertility, this natural creativity that now leads us to inspired action as we live our intentional lives. Inspired action is also the Knight of Wands, but can reside in the Magus card as well. Power, adroitness, ability to do things, create in the world. Yeah, as an extension also of the Eight of Pentacles. Also creative mental power, right? The Magician has all of the tools they need in front of them, and they need the mental creativity to figure out what they want to do with all of these tools in front of them. Now, how does that relate to the King of Discs? Remember, the King of Discs is able to enjoy the work process. And the unconscious portion of that, the internal portion of that, I think is expressed beautifully by these cards. Now, we've done the work, we've put in the 10,000 hours, or are putting in those 10,000 hours. So we begin to have that internal mastery, which gives us our creativity, which allows us to bring it out into the world, into manifestation. And the King of, what is his name? The King of Discs thrills over that, enjoys that experience. A total Taurus experience. Now, I want, before we move on to the two advice cards from the Oracle decks, I also want to look at this because we've read these cards vertically. But horizontally, these cards also give us some very interesting information. At the bottom, what did we have? We had Temperance and the Eight of Discs. In a sense, both of these are our art cards. This one's more watery, this one's more earthy, both of them receptive. At least in my tarot sphere, earth and water are both receptive elements. And they're both creating, right? So, in balance, as we bring elements together and we repeat that action as we continue to do the practice of alchemy, we begin to get that innate alchemical skill. We become alchemy. As I think I mentioned just a little while ago, we can become alchemy by repetition of the act of bringing things together, bringing essences together, bringing energy together. It's not only the material, we bring energy together, we bring emotion together, we bring thoughts together. Not only in balance, but to create the new. And we can get mastery of that. And then the next two cards were the Empress and the Nine of Cups. How wonderful to balance these two together. Yeah? Contentment, enjoyment of our natural fertility. That's part of living our intentional life. And here we had the King of Discs in the center. Now the King of Discs brings together that contentment and the fertility, the satisfaction and the wishes granted, and the abundance and the beauty of what is. That's a total Taurus thing, right? And then at the top, I'm sorry, my cards have now fallen off my lap, and also I'll just tell you, we had the Page of Wands and the Magician. So we have that internal ability to create, to manifest, and the Page of Wands, consciously, we're exploring our ability to create with our passion, with our libido, with our potential, with our inspiration, with inspired action. Our internal magus, magician, if we can express that in the world with the youthful exuberance of the Page of Wands, how enjoyable can that be? How exciting can that be? How much can we discover? How much would that feel like flowing powerfully with the current, with the river, with the raging flood of intention? How magnificent could that be? And feeling stable in that, as the King of Discs would, that is living life intentionally. And again, we'll sometimes get knocked over. And because we'll sometimes get knocked over, we've got two pieces of advice. Let's turn right to those two pieces of advice. Our two pieces of advice are wonderful, and one of them is a repeat. If you were here last week, you've already seen this card. We had on the left, in the same position, the card number 41, which is the lion with the man, the male-looking figure standing before it, with the burst of fire right here in the heart, a Leo card, the summer card. And in the unconscious realm, I thought a perfect balance is this card. Now, I would have thought a water card would have made a little bit more sense, but this is card 47, which is also a zodiac card, which is winter, a balance for summer. And also, this is Aquarius. Now, this is Aquarius. This is, but if you look at this card, though Aquarius is an air element, there's a lot of watercolor, not watercolor, but the color here is very watery to me. And it looks darker than this bright sunny card. This looks darker, unconscious to me. So these two cards, I think, balance very nicely. And let's start with the conscious realm. So in the conscious realm, sometimes, again, we can get a little bit punch drunk. We can get beat up by life. We can get knocked down and kicked around a little bit from time to time and learn from that. And we want to remember with this card to seize the moment to creatively direct our raw energy. When we have the energy, not when we're punch drunk. But when our energy starts to return, sometimes it might feel a little bit frustrated. It could, have you ever noticed that? Has this ever happened to you? When you've gotten beaten up by life, you start getting up and you start feeling irritated and perhaps even angry as you start regaining your power or re-owning your power? Have you started feeling pessimistic or maybe even wanting revenge for getting beaten up so much? What do we do with that? Do we go out and take revenge? Do we go out and project our anger on those people around us? Have you done that? I have. I know I have. And I'm sure all of us have. Maybe yesterday, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. But all of us, I think, have done that. And that's okay. It's not a reason to beat ourselves up. Remember, the Magus reversed. Don't beat yourself up. It's pointless. It's useless. It does not help. So what's the suggestion? What's the advice? The advice is to do this, to seize the moment and direct that energy into something creative. Celebrate life. It may not be easy at the moment, but we want to remember that we do know how to be happy. We have that knowledge here, which is that fiery thing right there in the center. That energy in the center is that knowledge that we know how to be happy. We know how to speak and embrace our love of life. Speak our love of life and embrace our love of life, because that's who we are. All of that stuff, that disorganized energy of frustration and anger and wanting revenge and pessimism, all of that is disorganized energy that is covering our true essence, which is love. We are beings of love here, manifested in these and co-creating these beautiful bodies that we are in, whatever condition those bodies are in. These bodies are beautiful. Your body is beautiful. You are co-creating that body. And in these bodies, as we manifest as eternal beings in these bodies, we are love, and we are love of life. It's not something we have to go out and find. We never lose it. We're distracted by disorganized energy of other things. And so we want to take that energy. Remember that we are love of life. And we can speak and embrace that love of life. Remembering that will help. It will help us. Okay, so now what do I do with this energy? I can create with it. Whatever your creative thing is, be it cooking, music, art, singing is music, cleaning a house, building something with your hands, taking something down and clearing out space for others to build upon. That could be creative as well. As long as you're not destroying nature, that can be creative as well. We can redirect that energy. remembering that we are love of life, remembering that we celebrate life from our very core, from the very essence of our eternal selves. We celebrate life. And we can find spontaneous ways to redirect that energy. It doesn't have to be a planned out thing. We can find something around us to direct that energy into, something creative. Not destructive like a bomb. It could be creative like clearing away space. I could use some creative clearing away space in my office right now. So that's the advice for our conscious realm. For our unconscious realm, the advice is this. Aquarius is the one who leads the way. But then in our unconscious realm, this is reminding us to resist the urge to be coerced by our culture. And a lot of us are coerced by our culture. Council culture is part of that. And I'm not saying that some people have not done things which they should be accountable for. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is our cultural reaction of canceling people. That's not what our eternal beings is here to do. We didn't come here to be cancel culture. We didn't come here to look for opportunities to be offended. And culturally, a lot of us are being taught to do that. Look for ways to be offended. To find people who are saying the wrong thing and take offense at it. Look for the Karens and be shocked and appalled and show our shock and appall to all the people around us. That is following the culture. I'm not saying Karen didn't do something wrong. Did not say that. Didn't say that the things that we find that may cause that first reaction of no doesn't mean that those things are not necessarily inappropriate or perhaps destructive or hurtful. Not saying that. What I'm saying is the cultural reaction to it. We want to find our own way of reacting in love, our own way of reacting in joy, our own way of reacting in awareness of our well-being and the essential well-being of everyone and everything here. Our own way of reacting in pure awareness instead of being clouded by cultural patterns. That's what this card is here to remind us of. To be loyal and speak our truth. Not our culturally programmed truth, but our own personal, loving, joyful, well, and aware truth. Our creative truth. We want to stand firm in the face of persuasion from cultural influences. And remember our innate freedom to be who we are. As eternal beings having this human experience. That's what living an intentional life is. That is being open to the power of intention. So consciously, when that energy starts to cloud our light, starts to put that bushel over our light, we take that energy and we find a way to direct it into something creative. And not in a way that we think that other people think we should direct it either. We do it in our own way. We reveal our own truth. When Karen comes up and does something, we don't react with anger, we react with love and understanding and revealing the truth within Karen, because right now, Karen wants healing. Karen is expressing fear and incomprehension and their pain, because it's a kind of call for rescue. And we can be the healers. Or we can at least reveal the potential for healing for Karen. And I'm sorry for all of you whose names are Karen, because one of my best friends from my previous theater days, her name, Karen Castle, I love her, and she's not a Karen. She's not a Karen. That's not what I'm saying, right? But culturally, we've used that name to describe a certain kind of person, both male and female, and non-binary. Although very few non-binary people are Karens, but they exist. They do exist. Those who, anyways, that is also another conversation. So that's what we want to do. If we can use this to reclaim our inner king of discs and flow powerfully with the powerful flow of intention. Does that make sense? Isn't that a powerful message from this spread for this week? I love it. Absolutely love it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And friends, if you are still here, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you enjoyed this and other people might enjoy it as well. It helps draw more eyes to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, if you're new here. And also stay tuned. In a minute, I will be showing you the names of the decks and creators. You don't want to miss that. But subscribe and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. And comment below. I would really, really love to hear from you. What do you think? Does this ring true for you in any way with your experience of life or the way you want to live life? I'd love to hear from you. And friends, if you want a private reading, there is my email address in the description box below. Send me an email and we can get you a reading. I would love doing that. Whatever kind of reading you want. Something short, small 3-card spread, something larger like a Celtic cross, whatever, we can work it out. I can match your desires. So friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.